So, Shavua Tov, everyone. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to Raya. And as you can see, Raya and Mordechai, they are doing an amazing job getting the video out on Zoom and on Facebook. So we appreciate it very much. Thank you. Today, we are going to be talking about Ze Keli V'Anveyu Elokei Aviv Arememenu, which is an interesting pasuk that we actually read in the Torah 2 weeks ago. But I would like to start with a story about Mivtzoim. Several years ago in New York, I was learning in the yeshiva in 770 there. And every Friday we used to go to Mivtzoim, putting on tefillin to people visiting their offices. We used to go to Manhattan. I went with a friend, and I was new on that route. Each group had a certain route of the roads or the streets that they used to go through, and I was new to that route. My friend already knew the people over there, and he knocks on one of the offices, and out comes a person, and they start talking. They're talking about a very interesting topic, and this person refused to put on tefillin. My friend offered him, like every Friday, would you like to put on tefillin? So he said, absolutely not. I'm a good person. I give charity from time to time. And I make sure to take care of my social responsibilities. And I make sure to support people that have a difficult time, for example, or do other kind and good deeds. And that is the way that I connect to God. I don't need any additional ways. And that was his claim. And they were talking about the fact whether, on which level we needed to connect to God, where do we need to place God in our lives. And that was my experience with this specific person, hearing this discussion between those two people. My friend, and again, this business owner, and basically that was the topic. Where do we need to have Hashem in our lives? How much do we need to have Hashem in our lives? Can we be, the question is as follows, can we really be good people without involving Hashem in the story? Or do we need to involve Hashem in every perspective in our lives? Even if we are trying to be good people and we are trying to be people that do good to others, people that are kind to others, do we need to have some kind of connection to Hashem? So our Parsha is Parshas Mishpatim. It's a direct hemshech. We are continuing last week's Parsha, which was the Parsha of Matan Torah, and the Torah follows by giving us logical laws. Logical laws that we see in our Parsha are very interesting. Because on the one hand, we see that there is pure logic behind them. But on the other hand, we have to have the foundation of our belief. And this is the topic of the shir, knowledge versus belief, or knowledge and belief, because we need both. We need both of these ideas in order for us to fully keep our connection to Hashem. So the pasuk says, Ze Keli V'Anvehu Elokei Avi V'Arememenu. What does that mean? What is the meaning of that pasuk? So there's a very interesting explanation. Ze Keli, which means this is my God, V'Anvehu, and I will I'll connect to him. V'Ani V'Hu V'Anvehu. If it's my God, I connect to him. Elokei Avi, if it's the God of my father, V'Arememenu, then he is far away from me. He's elevated. He's not on my level. He's a bit distant. This pasuk teaches us the way that Hasidus explains it, that we have to have a close connection to Hashem. It's got to be Ze Keli. This is my God. This is not just Stama God. Because if it's Elokei Avi, if it's the God of my father, which means I only hear it in stories from my father. My father happens to know about this God, but me, myself, I don't. So in that case, it is va'arei memenhu, he is far away. One of the things that Hasidus brought to the world is the connection between the older generation to the new generation. There's an expression, and it's brought in Hayom Yom. Hasidus is here to show that the person isn't alone, and he can always connect to Hashem no matter where he is, in any situation that he is. This idea, if I'm not mistaken, it's from Hayom Yom. This idea means that we are actually trying to make Hashem relatable. And we are trying to know him as much as we can. Of course, it's something very hard, but it is something that it's very important. It's very important to know Hashem, because when we know Hashem, we can relate to him. Our behavior is totally different. But the truth is that Matan Torah does not stop there. It doesn't stop at the point where we know Hashem. Not everything is about knowledge. We can't rely on our knowledge. And this is where Hasidus comes to the higher level in our connection. Here is something very interesting. And it affects a lot, because if we would rely on our knowledge, only on our knowledge, then things wouldn't be good. Things wouldn't be good because we can see throughout history people that relied on knowledge without taking Hashem as a foundation, connection to Hashem as a foundation of belief. So the knowledge is tricky, because knowledge can lead you off track from time to time. And this is something that's important to not only to rely on our knowledge. When Hasidus says that you've got to das Elokei Avicha, know the God of your father. Don't only believe in him, because if you only believe in the God of your father, then it is va'arei memenu. He is distant from you. He's high, he's great, because you hear amazing stories about the miracles that he did. But he is not connected to you, and therefore you won't follow him fully. So that is the power of knowledge. But there is also, besides the power of knowledge, there is the belief, and that's not less important. That is the foundation. And we see that 70 years ago, when the Germans, 80 years ago, when it even started before, 85, 90 years ago, when the movement started, and the fact that their whole theory is based on some kind of logic, a wrong knowledge, and a mistaken logic, but the fact that they can claim that it is some kind of logical idea, that shows you how tricky knowledge could be. Knowledge is very tricky, and that's why we've got to have a foundation of belief, which means that in any situation, lo tirtzach, do not murder. In any situation, do not kill, not only because it's knowledge, because it's logical. Where do we see that? We see that in our Parsha, Ve'ele HaMishpatim. Our Parsha talks about pure mitzvot that are connected to our logic. All the mitzvahs of the way that you should treat people that work for you. All of the mitzvot that are regarding paying people, not stealing, right? That is our Parsha. The Parsha says, Ve'ele HaMishpatim, Ve'ele, Rashi tells us, Ve'ele, why does it say, and these are the laws? Why does it say, and? It should say, these are the laws. Why does it say, and these are the laws? We are adding on our last Parsha, on the previous Parsha. On Matan Torah, we received the Torah, but we did not only receive the mitzvahs that are beyond logic, we received the basic mitzvahs, the mitzvahs that are logical, we received them too on Matan Torah, on Mount Sinai. Why is that? Because it's important to base even the logical mitzvahs on the belief foundation. It's important to connect our logic to Hashem, to the belief in Hashem. And without that, we can't move on, because logic, as we said, is very tricky. This is the difference between the power of knowledge and the power of belief. So let's talk about our connection to Hashem during Matan Torah, because there are a few levels And this will maybe explain the deep connection to Hashem and why it's so important to base everything in life on Hashem. So what happened before Matan Torah is that we were, the basis was that we are sons of Hashem. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the children of Hashem. When Matan Torah came, Hashem said, "You're not only my sons, my children, but you are also my slaves." Where do we see that? We see that because Hashem went around, as the Midrash tells us, and he offered the Torah to all the other nations. No one was prepared to agree, but the Jews did agree. What did they say? Na'aseh v'nishma. We'll do and we'll hear, which means we first will do no matter what it says. That is an attitude of a slave. And that's why our connection to Hashem started in a way that we are children of Hashem. And a child does naturally what his father wants him to do, usually, right? Not always it happens in such a case, but nevertheless, the idea of a son is to try and focus on what the father tells him to do, and he would like to follow his ways, because the connection is based only, or not only, but mainly on love. But Hashem says it's not enough. I don't want you always to connect to me as a son where it's based on your logic and on your love, because that could be tricky. Sometimes children do the opposite of what the parents want them to do. We have to upgrade. We have to move on to the next level, which is becoming a slave of Hashem, a servant of Hashem. And this is Na'aseh v'nishma. Doesn't end there. There's a higher level in us being slaves of Hashem. And it's slaves in a good way, which means we don't really have choice. We've got to do what Hashem commands us. But we have a great reward. So what is the highest level of our connection to Hashem? The Medrash tells us that when Hashem, before we received the Torah, Hashem lifted up Mount Sinai, lifted it up on the top of the Jewish people's head, over there when they were standing right before receiving the Torah, and he told them, or you receive the Torah, or this is where you'll be buried. And of course, the Jews received the Torah. But the question is, why did Hashem need it? Why did he need to force the Jewish people? First of all, they loved him, right? Second of all, they are already slaves, because they said, yes, Na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do, and then we'll hear. So before this story about lifting up Mount Sinai and placing it on the head of the Jewish people and telling them, well, you have to receive the Torah, Hashem, we already said we'll receive the Torah. Why are you forcing us once again? The truth is that there's a higher level in becoming a slave. And of course, this is a slave in a positive manner. Because the level of a person selling himself, agreeing to be a slave, is lower than someone actually forcing you to become a slave. Because when you say Na'aseh v'nishma, you are basically saying, yes, I will do as you say. I am prepared to be a slave. The emphasis is on you. You agreed to become a slave. You are the one that created the situation. In such a case, that is not the highest level in connecting to Hashem. There's even a higher level connecting to Hashem. And that level is when he makes you a slave. It isn't even dependent on you. He forces you. He tells you, if you're not going to become my slave, I will make sure that this is the place where you'll be buried. So it doesn't sound so nice, but that is the connection that we have to Hashem. It's a deep, deep connection. That's why Hashem is connected to us as well. It's also positive. We shouldn't look at it as if, oy vavoy, we are forced to do it. What did we agree on? And by the way, we are coming towards Purim. And until Purim, we were not punishable in the full way. Hashem couldn't punish us because he forced us. So we had a claim that we could say, well, you forced us to do it. We didn't have free choice. Therefore, you can't punish us. When Purim came, Kimu v'kiblu, Am Yisrael received slaves. So why important to become Hashem's slaves? Now we know that there's the highest level of becoming a slave where he forces us. And that's important because the foundation of our connection isn't on our logic, it isn't on our terms, it's on his terms. By the way, this idea we see in our Parsha of Eila Mishpatim. Eila Mishpatim talks about two kinds of slaves. A slave that was sold by himself, which means he didn't have money. He said, well, I need money. I'll sell myself to another person and he'll pay me money. And that's how I'll be able to, whatever, pay off any loan that I have or for any other reason. But he sells himself. There's another case where the Beis Din sells this person because he stole something, for example, and he doesn't have what to pay. The Beis Din force him to become a slave. These are the two kinds of slaves that we have. And only a person that Beis Din sold him can, for example, marry another wife. There are certain laws, certain dinim that apply only to a person that lost his freedom totally, which is a person that Beis Din sold him. But if you sell yourself, it doesn't mean that you lost your freedom totally. You are still free because you are the one that put yourself in that situation. That is the idea of the two levels in Matan Torah. Hashem giving us the Torah. We are prepared to become slaves, and that's the Naaseh v'Nishma. But it doesn't end there. Hashem forces us to become his slaves. That is the idea. And to go back to the story of this person and the general topic, it's important to connect to Hashem in any aspect in our lives, which means we cannot say, well, I am fulfilling my duty towards the human race or towards society or towards even Hashem by doing things on my own accord only. And being a good person, it ends there with giving charity from time to time, supporting people or becoming, I don't know, whatever it is, any kind of responsibility. They're all great things. But nevertheless, we've got to connect that to Hashem. Because if you don't connect it to Hashem, what happens is in a certain time, you'll say, well, this is a place where I don't need to give. Or I don't. There are interesting stories about, one story is about a rich person, for example, a rich person that one of the rabbis came over, the Admorim, and he told him, there's a person here that needs some money. Can you help him out? So he said, I'm sorry, I'm now in the Shas Docha, which means I'm having hard times. And this Admor said, well, this is the specific time when you're supposed to give. When it's hard, when it's easy for you, there is no kunt about it. There's no chokhmah about it. When it's hard, that's the time when you're supposed to give. So this shows us that if we base ourselves on only logic, we can go from being good people, socially responsible, and supporting others, etc., supporting the environment, and being good individuals, not killing, not stealing, all the logical mitzvot. But we can go off track. And that's the Germans 80 years ago, and many other people in many cases, in many situations. So this is basically what we learned from the Eila Mishpatim. The Eila Mishpatim teaches us that with all due respect to our connection to Hashem, our strong connection that is based on knowledge, we've got to remember that everything starts from Matan Torah. By the way, I would like to end with a proof that Matan Torah actually happened. Everyone claims it's an interesting proof, and you can think about it. Tell me what you think, because I can't say that I fully understand the proof, but I know that there is a proof that Matan Torah actually happened. First of all, there's our belief, right? We say we found the foundation of everything is our belief, so we don't need a proof. We don't really need a proof. We believe that Matan Torah actually occurred, it actually happened. But since from time to time people ask questions about it, and there's an answer of the Rebbe, this answer is an answer of the Rebbe that the Rebbe gave to some person that said, well, how do we know that Matan Torah really happened? This is a miraculous story, and this is a story that that is the foundation to our Jewish belief, to our mitzvot. And this is kind of our card that we are holding out to everyone around us, say, well, we have the right religion. Our religion is based on Hashem giving us the Torah itself. So the logical belief to the logical proof to Matan Torah is the fact that it was done when thousands of people were there witnessing it. Unlike other religions where the miraculous stories happened in a dream or only when an individual was there, maybe a few individuals, but it wasn't done in front of thousands and thousands of people. That is the proof, basically. What does that proof mean? It means that, let's say if we decide to make up a story, we're sitting here in the room, right? And we decide to make up a story. Let's say that this and this happened. If you are 10 people, so you can pass it on to the next generation and to the next generation, they might believe you because the lie, right? We know that lies don't, sheker en lo raglayim. A lie doesn't have legs, which means a lie cannot continue on for a long time. At one point, they'll cut what we call the shalsheret adbaka, the chain of when the corona goes on to another person. At one point, you've got to cut it. You've got to say, well, he's the one that caused it, so let's make sure that he goes into a bidud, into isolation, for example. So when individuals lie or make up a story, right, they have a better chance of keeping it true, which means we can say, well, sitting together in this room, 5 people, let's say that angel came over here and did this and did that, etc., etc. But when 10,000 people gather now, let's say in a hall, and they all say, listen, let's make up a story that an angel came into the room, there's no chance at all that in 12 generations on, people will believe that story. Because there'll for sure be one father that will say, well, to his son, you know what, that really didn't happen, no chance. But we know today that our fathers told us and their fathers told us that in front of 600,000 men, plus there were women and children, Hashem gave us the Torah. That's something that you cannot contradict, because if it was made up at that time, then we would know there would be at least one claim that it didn't happen. One person will say, well, my father told me that never happened. No one says that. Everyone believes that happened. Where does that come from? Because it actually happened. When we base our belief on the power of the knowledge, of the power of the people, the population, it is a powerful, powerful belief. That is, by the way, it's generally it's some kind of thing that when you give the power to the public, it becomes very strong. That they use it in many aspects today. They use it even in business. They use it today. They use it in Airbnb, Uber, those things. It's the power of the population, the power of the public, the power of the people, that they can actually cause changes. They can actually bring proofs that things happen, right? There's no one's ruling, no one's controlling as an individual things. It is dependent on the common people that are around. So once again, that's a proof, just in brackets, because sometimes it's an interesting topic, and there's a special igeret, which is a letter from the Rebbe to a few people that asked, probably. That is the difference between the two. So thank you very much for taking part in the shir this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all Bezrat Hashem next week, 9:30 in the morning. Shavua Tov.